Hi there, everybody. Welcome to A Sip of Knowledge on Zavvy.co. Going to do the stuff that Will usually does at this point. Um, Thank you for being here. Do I hear pigs? What is that noise? It sure sounds like pigs. I don't know what that is. Anyway, thanks for joining the show today. There is a chat room. You can put comments there, and we will see them and get to any questions that you have. I don't know what that noise is. Oh, it stopped. Okay, good.
I think it's guys raising barrels in the shop.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So
pounding hoops.
Anybody, please invite anyone you can to join the show while it's live. We'll be live from 1 to 2 Eastern, and there is a button there to click to invite somebody to the show. So please feel free to make any comments or questions in the chat, and invite your friends to come on board. And with that, I'll go into the introduction of what we're doing today. Today, we are doing a sip of knowledge with Joe Blazosky from Adirondack Barrel Cooperage in Remsen, New York. Sorry. For those of you who don't know, I only know because I just asked Joe, although I was there, what was it, about 3 years ago, I think?
About 3 years ago.
About 3 years. It's about 20 miles north of Utica, New York, maybe an hour east of Syracuse, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's right up there on the very edge of the Adirondacks. It starts getting pretty hilly right after that. Right. But it's a beautiful place. I love the drive up there. And Joe has been very craftily making some barrels up there. I'm sorry, I forgot to do our introductions. I'm a little confused today. I am Lou Bryson. I'm a writer about whiskey, and I am the author of Whiskey Masterclass. I was the managing editor of Whiskey Advocate magazine for 20 years. That's how that stuff goes. And I continue to write about whiskey now, and of course I do this show. And wow, I'm really just rambling here. So today's whiskey, what I'm drinking today, I realized I hadn't done any scotch in a while. Yeah, we're trying to get through the green screen here. There we are. So today I'm just having a simple bottle of Glen Grant 12-year-old. Smelling good. Tasting pretty good too. My co-host is Liz Rhoades. Liz is currently trying to get into the room into the show for the green room. And we will, yep, there she is. Yes? Maybe? There she is. All right. Just in time, Liz.
Sorry,
so this is Liz Rhoades. Take it away, Liz.
Cool. Awesome. I was trying to get in from the green room. Super excited for today's show. I'm hearing a lot of noises in the background, which is totally 100% relatable. Bonging, etc.
Coopering in action.
Yeah. So, hey everyone, I'm Liz Rhoades, technical distiller and spirit consultant. Have over a decade experience in alcoholic beverage, spanning across several different sites, spirit types, and product types, including beer, rum, vodka. But, however, my particular favorite and expertise is, of course, in whiskey, as we all know and love. I spent most of my career at a little mom and pop shop known as Diageo, but I'm currently now Reorder, director of whiskey ops and R&D at Whistlepig Whiskey, and I also happen to run my own little tiny consulting business at Spirit Safe Consulting, and that's me in a nutshell.
Outstanding. Our guest today is, as I said, Joe Blazosky from Adirondack Barrel Cooperage. Welcome, Joe. Glad to have you on. You're our first cooper.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I warned you that we were gonna do this. We do it to everybody. How did you wind up being a Cooper? Because you did not start out as one.
No, I did not. I actually, my background was in carpentry, construction. I owned a construction company in Southern Ohio for 25 years and moved to New York with my wife, Kelly. She is the president of Oneida County Tourism here in upstate New York. So how this all started was back in 2013. I don't know if you remember, but there was a barrel shortage in 2013. And Kelly was talking to one of the clients that's in a distillery here in New York State about promotions and working with them, and asked him when, they were going to do their bourbon. And he was like, well, we're going to have to put bourbon off because we can't get barrels. So Kelly and I were kind of kicking around some things. I wanted to make a career change at that point anyhow. I've done all there was to do and what I thought in construction. And she came running home one day and said, I know, I got it. I know what we can do. And I said, what's that? She said, a cooperage. I said, what? She said, a cooperage. I said, well, I know what that is, but what made you think of that? And she told me the story. So we started researching. There were no cooperages in the Northeast United States at all. None in New York State at that time. So everything came together, and we ended up starting Adirondack Barrel Cooperage here in Remsen, New York.
And what was that? What, 2014, or was it in 2015?
So in 2014, or 2015, and we actually got into production by the time we got our equipment, our building, and everything set up. All my equipment is European equipment from Slovenia and Scotland. So, and I worked with those companies to actually build and help design the equipment that we use for our cooperage. We blend, some new technology with the old world ways of building. We build barrels like similar to the French method, fire bend.
Yeah. I remember that was one of the things when I did visit. That was one of the things that struck me. Some of the stuff is highly, well, not really automated, but kind of like machine guided, some of it, and then
very accurate, very technical and accurate.
And then you get this damn open fire of wood to shape the barrels in there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now you said you helped design the equipment. I remember you talking about that. Can you tell us what you felt that you needed that the industry didn't have already on the shelf?
Sure. Basically, what I felt that the industry was lacking was consistency and quality. I learned from a great company and a great guy, Rick DeFerrari in Oregon Barrel Works. He was head cooper for Francois Frere in France for a while, and then moved back to the States and started a smaller cooperage. He agreed to let me come out there. And when I was learning on like 1920s French coopering equipment. So I quickly, with my background, discovered that, I was looking for something that was a little bit more accurate than than using the old equipment that most cooperages are using around the country.
So like I said, one of the things that struck me about the construction at your place was how, I don't want to say that the staves were uniform, but they seemed to be much less random than other cooperages I've seen, like even big places like Independent Stave and Brown Forman. It's almost like you guys know how many staves are going to go into a barrel and know where they're going to fit?
Oh, kinda, yeah. Our joining process is very, very accurate. I mean, most cooperages will tell you that there's no such thing as a perfect stave. We're about as close to a perfect stave as you can get. The way that our machine operates, and it's CNC, the cutter head actually moves around the board instead of the board moving through the machine.
That was really cool to watch.
It's highly accurate. So, boards come in all different widths, and there is a certain diameter of a barrel. And depending on what size that diameter is, the angles on the staves, for when our machine cuts, it measures the width of the board and sets itself up and puts the correct angle on every single board. So, and then from end to end on that stave is within hundreds of an inch. So they're about as close as you can get. And that also contributes to our volume controls and consistency of volumes and sizing.
Oh, even the barrel.
We're actually building a wooden whiskey barrel, all our barrels, to within about a 2 to 3 millimeter tolerance from one barrel to the next. And it gives us very, very tight volume controls.
I wish we'd have had some pictures, because that was one of the things I walked away and told everyone I ran into. Yeah. Your damn barrels look like they were made by a cabinet maker. They're they're gorgeous.
They look good, but that's not the important part. The important part is the flavors that we get out of our barrels and the process that we go through with fire bending. We fire bend. We do not steam bend. We fire bend, low temperature toast before we char on it to exacting processes. And we can get into that a little bit more as we move forward. But, going back to volume control, like Liz, you understand very well that, when you fill that barrel, you weigh them for the TTB with the angel share. Mm-hmm. So the research that we've been doing quite a bit of research with our customers. So for the volume controls, they tell me that their barrels from other suppliers can be anywhere between 1 and 10 pounds different in weight because of the different volumes that they, a barrel, when I was building them in Oregon, one end of the barrel could be a 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch bigger than the other end. Well, that changes your volumes very, very much. So in a batch of, let's say, 20 barrels from us versus most of our competitors, we were only about 0.8 of a pound different in weight across that same. So it helps with the accuracy that we're building them helps with our volume control.
Yeah, I think accuracy is super important. Absolutely, 100%. I wanted to kind of chat with you about, I know you have the char level chart carrying, and I wanted to kind of chat through that because a lot of people don't understand char levels and how that impacts flavor profile, but also you work across industries, right? So it's not just the spirit industry, but it seems like you work with the kombucha industry as well.
We do, yeah. We work with kombucha makers, cider makers. I work with a great company for I think it's Connecticut. He makes shoyu, which is a soy sauce made the traditional way the Japanese do in wooden barrels. Very good. Bob Florence is his name. Very good stuff. So yeah, we work across. We do pickles, all kinds of stuff.
Which is awesome, but can you explain how your process and the different char levels impact those different processes?
Well, sure. I mean, mostly, what we do, like for kombucha, it's a toasted barrel or a neutral barrel, which is basically hardly any char level at all, which is basically toasted what it sounds like. It's just browned on the inside. It's heat that you're applying to that barrel and creating, you're basically breaking down the hemicellulose, converting that into sugar is what you're doing. So that's for that. But now, when we get to whiskeys, that's where we really shine, I think, with our processes. And I mean, that starts with the fire bending and the low temperature toasting, because that point, every time when you put heat on that barrel, what it does is it starts to convert the hemicellulose into sugars and into caramels, starts that caramelization process. So when we bend and we build our barrels, every single barrel is on the fires the same amount of time as every barrel. We don't just put them all on there and then bend one and bend another. They can be on the fire at different times. The length of time that they're on the fire and the temperatures that they achieve will change the complexity of that barrel of what flavors that you're going to get out of it. So we fire bend, low temperature toast. So once that barrel is fire bent, heated thoroughly, bent, it goes back on a fire. And then
is that about 150 Celsius, the bending?
No. The barrel's got to be about 92 to 100 degrees on the outside of that barrel before it'll break down enough or get pliable enough to bend.
For pliability.
Yeah, for that part. Then once that barrel is bent and closed and we put the rings on it, we actually put that barrel back on a fire pot, and we continue to low temperature toast that for a certain period of time. And then after that period of time, it goes into our charring process. Now, our charring machine is really cool. It was designed, and I got it in Scotland. It was designed originally for recharring used bourbon barrels for the Scotch industry. But we took that machine and completely redesigned it, added a bunch of stuff, added an Allen Bradley computer control system, and our barrels char while they're rotating horizontally, so the heat is directly in the barrel. So once it goes up on the charring machine, I pull it up to a certain temperature and hold it and toast it again. Then for a certain amount of time, then I bring these temperatures back up and burst it into flame. And then our standard char is a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Your higher chars are more towards your bourbons, your bolder whiskeys that you're looking for more vanilla. Your lower chars, 1s, 2s, we use mostly for, malts, rums. People use them for a lot of different things. And there's a lot to that. So there's lingens, when you char to high char levels, you're working those lingens. And basically what you're getting is a lot of smoke and a lot of vanilla. And that's okay, depending on what the distillery's doing, how they're blending. But I don't char our barrels quite as high probably as my competitors, because I like to leave the lactones. So the lactones are the process that actually creates those caramels and toffees and that complexity.
Yeah, so you just work with American oak, right?
Yeah, right now, we're working with just.
Yeah, because I would say, because if we're talking American oak, that's lactones are very innate, right? And it's a higher proportion in American oak versus European oak.
Yes. We do have plans to, work with some French oak.
Oh, okay.
But our oak, and that's one of the things with our company that I guess makes us what we are today is the quality of our wood. All our wood comes from northern Missouri and Minnesota. So everything we get comes from around a 200-mile radius. So it keeps us very consistent in the type of wood that we're using. So we do not use any kiln dried wood here whatsoever. And all our wood is air dried. And right now, everything we're using is 48 to 60 months air dried, which is better than wine quality wood. We also use export. There's no knots, no sapwood, no nothing. The research that's been done around the country is that, so the best wood in the country for whiskey barrels or wine barrels is Missouri. And it's because of the climate that it grows in, the tightness of it. Farther north you get very tight. The farther north you get with your wood sourcing can actually lend itself a little bit better to wine barrels because of the slow growing season.
Yeah, early versus late.
Yeah, it's tighter than it doesn't breathe quite as well. So it can provide great flavors.
Yeah, so maybe we could talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
Sorry. So our early versus late wood, and this is something because obviously I'm at Whistle Pig and we do source some oak from the Champlain Valley, so Vermontian oak as well. And the interesting thing about it that we do finishing on, right? So not primary maturation, but finishing.
Okay.
And the really cool thing about it, and exactly what you said, is that the early, the annual growth ranks, right? So early versus late wood, that ratio changes.
What's the early late thing? I'm missing that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So probably everyone is familiar with looking at a cross section and the lighter versus the darker section, right?
I'm familiar with it, but I didn't know what the lighter and darker part meant.
Yeah, so the early wood is relating to the lighter portion, and the late wood is relating to the darker portion.
And this is early and late in the year?
Yeah, so it's all part of the annual growth rings.
Okay.
And it's just the light and dark portion, right?
Okay.
And a cross section. And so, Joe, you absolutely are correct, right? So here, I say here, but obviously I don't live in Vermont, even though I'm there every other week. But what we see in Vermont is we get a lot more early wood, right? Because our climate is a lot colder versus exactly like you said in Missouri or Kentucky or, so what that translates to is we get a lot more of that lighter portion of wood, and less of the darker portion of that ring. And as you know, what that translates it into, we get more wood sugars, right? Because early wood translates into more hemicellulose and cellulose because it's trying to feed the tree, right? We're trying to grow.
Yeah.
We're trying to grow the tree. And less tannins. And that's exactly how it translates. So if we're talking whiskey, that means we have more wood sugars, we have more lignin, less tannins. And so that turns out to be more caramelized products, more vanillin, and less,
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And our, the other thing that contributes to that less tannin is the age of the air drying.
Right.
So for the longer you air dry it, the better it actually mellows those tannins out, and washes a lot of them out. So you're starting with less tannin, which you need some tannin for your, product to age, but it makes it much smoother and mellower flavors. But yeah, northern oak, like you were saying, it's much tighter. It doesn't breathe quite as well as what.
Tighter meaning tighter late
Yeah,
wood, right?
yeah.
Like that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
so what we've found is that it actually lends itself a little bit better to wine barrels because wine you don't want that air transfer like you want some, but in whiskey barrels you want that air transfer. There's a lot going on in that airspace that transfer between the outside and the barrel inside itself.
Oxygen reactions.
Yeah, oxygen reactions. So and then so we have a nice blend of, from the region that our wood is cut in versus southern white oak from, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky. The farther south you go, it grows faster. It's more porous. You're going to lose more in angel share also. So what we found also with our research that most of our competitors are losing 20 to 24% in angel share, and we're losing about 13 in ours. And part of that is because of sanding that barrel. It opens some of the grain and closes some of the other.
You talking about sanding the outside or the inside?
The outside of the barrel, because when we're talking using wood that's 48 to 60 months old, white oak has what they call a tylose in it. It's a gummy substance that actually will seal off those pores. But as that wood starts aging as much as what we're using, that tylose starts to crystallize some. It doesn't seal it's a little harder to build barrels out of because it doesn't seal quite as well. But so when we sand that barrel and it actually makes heat, it'll actually gum it back up. So we're actually cutting the grain, closing some of it and opening the other, which gives us a great balance of less angel share. And of course, our barrels don't leak. We pressure test every one before it goes out of here. Not saying you can't get a leak. It's a wood product. But for the most part, our barrels don't leak. So we're getting around 13% angel share, and which yields more product out of that barrel with actually more complexity.
So is that year one, or because I always use the model of 10% year one, and then depending on where you are geographically, that could change. So
yeah, thanks for clarifying that. That's usually like a 4-year span in a 53-gallon barrel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In what climate?
Basically, we're talking. You can lose more in the southern regions. I have some people down south in Louisiana, Florida, Texas, and
that's pretty damn south.
You can lose a little bit more, but it's still less than what our competitors are losing.
Okay, because I think about I'm in Vermont and we experience a lot less loss, right?
Right, you do. That's actually the truth. The hotter it is, the more it's going to evaporate. So.
Sure. So your angel share or evaporative loss, you're saying, and an average
13%. Average per year is less than that. 3 to 4%, maybe 3.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, which in the end yields more product per barrel. And we've found that we're getting more complexity with ours.
I gotta believe that some of
that's just from our whole process. Fire bending.
I was going to say some of that is the physical part of the joining,
right? The quality of our wood, so it's just a combination of what I've created here that makes our barrel what it is.
And your barrel is a little more expensive than the competitors. Is that?
It is. We're not a commodity barrel builder. I mean, we use better hoop steel. We use best quality wood you can get. In export grade, it's very expensive. The hoop steel that we use is also edge conditioned for handling ability. I know anybody that's handled barrels before with hoop steel, you can cut yourself pretty bad on hoop steel. We actually have ours edge conditioned, so it's smooth on the edges. And we're using a really good quality steel. It's a little bit thicker too. Most companies use 1.5 millimeter thick. We use 2 millimeter thick. And we worked with a company and did a lot of metallurgy research on what we do in order to get the right stretch out of that hoop and tensile strength so that they're solid, tight. We press every hoop to the same height. We don't just press them to wherever they get tight. So there is a difference, we produce a higher quality barrel. We're not a production, we were a production, but we're not a commodity barrel builder. We still do build barrels by hand. We're small. I've got an 8-person crew right now, and we're when I started out, we was doing about 800 barrels the first couple years, and I'm right now currently producing about 4,300 barrels per year. Which is really good. So
and you told me in the green room, you're pretty much you're already sold out this year.
We are. We're sold out all of 23 or 22 in the first quarter of 23, and I'm getting calls every day. I could have sold 10,000 barrels last week. But not capable of building that many. At some point, we are doing an expansion.
What's the lumber sourcing process for you guys?
Like I said, our wood comes from Missouri and Minnesota. I work with 2 stave mills. They're probably 2 of the oldest stave mills in the country, and 2 of the best. When I first got into this, when I was talking with Rick DeFerrari in Oregon, he said I'd never find wood, and I did. So being small the way I am, I'm a good fit for these companies for what we were looking for. I don't have the machinery to basically clean the sapwood off of a bourbon grade, so I just ended up striking a good deal. I've been putting down wood now. So as we're putting out wood right now that's 48 to 60 months old, and that'll drop back slightly. But as our growth has came along, we have made sure that we're putting down wood in order to fall back to that standard 24 to 36 month constantly is what we'll end up being at in like 2024, but 2022, 23, we're still at that 48 to 60 month air dried, which is producing amazing flavors. So our sourcing is great. But we have stayed working with these people, the customers, they're the suppliers that we use, making sure that we are telling them what we need for our growth, because you have to put that wood down well in advance. That's some of the reason that larger cooperages don't do very much air dried wood, because from an economical standpoint, they can't afford it. I mean, you're talking about a large company that builds 2,500 barrels a day, and you put that wood down 4 years in advance.
That's a lot of wood sitting around.
Yeah, they go out of business for the amount of money it would cost them to do it. So we're in that sweet little niche. We've kind of created a small niche for ourselves. I knew when I got into this business, there were a lot of cooperages out there that are much bigger than I could ever be. So I had to set myself apart, and I did a lot of work and research on producing a really quality barrel, also to help enhance the new. When I first got into it, the craft distilling industry was just basically starting. So I've been growing with our customers. We started out building, a certain percentage small barrels, 10, 15 gallon. We've always built, 4 sizes, 10s, 15s, 30s, and 53s. But that was to get started because the craft distillers needed to get product to market. A smaller barrel creates more
How is that
surface
changed?
ratio.
Because I'm really interested, right? So
It's really cool. It's changed to that we're doing almost all 30s and 53s. So our 53 gallon barrels, which when we first started was only about 25% of what we did, is moved to almost 75%.
but your business now is mostly 53s or
mostly 53s and 30 gallon.
And 30s. Okay.
And 30s. A lot of people like 30s. Yeah.
Dad's hat is still using some 30s. Yeah. I gotta tell you, Liz, some of the very best, I mean, really some of the only good under 2-year-old bourbons I've ever had, I had in that room. Samples from at Joe's place. Because he's got those bottles in the background are whiskeys that are being aged in his barrels. I was just, he started pulling these out and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be polite. I didn't have to be polite. It was actually because God damn, I don't like under 2-year-old bourbon. It's just not right.
I hear you, and that is true. In the beginning, when the craft distilling was just getting started, they were putting stuff out that was really not aged long enough. So it was very young. And you could get some decent stuff, but the industry is changing quite a bit now. Some of our distilleries that we've been working with now since for 7 years, and that were in business a couple years before me are, hitting that 10-year mark.
Yeah.
So we've got some barrels out there right now, especially our 53s, that are pushing 7 years old. Now it's been kind of cool to see the progress of, where we're at with the flavor profiles that we're getting out of our barrels. So we started, pulling the 10s and 15s because it was a shorter maturation time. Then we started hitting the 30-gallon barrels to longer maturation time. Now we're hitting these 53-gallon barrels at 4 and 7 years. And I got to tell you, I'm tasting some amazing stuff. I work with a few. Iron Smoke here is one of them. They've come a long way. This is a 4-year bottled in bond. Very good. Hill Rock, what can you say? Hill Rock is great stuff. And Cooperstown also has come a long way in their product. I mean, they make one of the better ryes that I've tasted coming out of our barrels. So it's been kind of neat to see the progression between the early times and then now where it's headed. And then, of course, the other thing that I think distilleries and craft distillers are learning is that a better barrel makes a much bigger difference. Is that the barrel is, and I'm going to say it, I mean, 80% of the flavor. Some people will say less, some say more, but that barrel it's 100% of the color and, anywhere between 70 and 80% of the flavor that you're coming at. Of course, with all due respect to the distillers, they still have to distill good product, use good grains, good water, know how to make your cuts. They're the chemists and the geniuses of it. But Mother Nature in that barrel is really the genius of what comes out of them. So we're excited about where the craft industry is headed right now.
Things really have come amazingly far in the last 5 years. There's been a big difference in what I've been tasting.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Whistle Pig, great stuff. One of my favorite. Very good.
I'm glad to hear that.
And we had a call from your company not long ago looking for barrels. So
I'm
we'd
sure.
love to be working with you at some point. It probably wouldn't be for your larger production, but maybe for some of your special stuff.
Yeah,
That would be awesome.
100%. We did have some questions. I had some questions additionally myself, but maybe we should
Sure.
talk into the questions that people had on. Yeah.
Yeah. Ask away.
So from Scott Spolverino. Hey, Scott.
Yeah, hey.
What math is involved in that, and can you share those barrel angles? I think he was
Oh
just
my goodness.
Oh, talking about the joining.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to explain. There is a formula for it. It's a lot of geometry involved in barrels, but the shapes and sizes of all barrels, and depending on what every cooperage is different. So there's a certain portion that's straight, curved, and straight. Again, that you do, and that will determine the shape of your barrel. And if I gave those numbers out, I'd have to kill you.
That's what I thought. We'll take a pass on that.
So and I've designed all my own shapes and sizes. The only thing that's standard on a barrel basically is the volume of it. Most barrels, they're all different shapes. Bourbon barrels that you see, that are mass produced are relatively straight, don't have much bilge in them. Wine barrels have a lot of bilge in them. So I kind of created mine, and I knew I'd be doing wine barrels and whiskey barrels. So I'm kind of in between what a normal whiskey barrel and what a normal wine barrel would be.
So you brought up bilge, and I think that's I just wanted to circle back on that because we were talking about ullage earlier, right? And everyone wants to talk about ullage. And what I found with
sorry, I just love words. I love words, and I love it. I can go a year and not hear that word, and there it is. Thank you.
Bilge.
Sorry.
Boom.
Bilge I hear all the time.
Yeah.
Ullage now. Ullage you do not hear. Sorry, go ahead.
But no, so I found out, so that bilge region, right, is where from a testing standpoint, that's where the most evaporative losses happen.
Yes.
So have you done any
Is that because it's bent?
No, I have not done a lot of study, mostly just anecdotal study that I've done with that. In the research that I have done, like I said, whiskey barrels are generally straighter, and which leaves an airspace across the top of that barrel because you never really fill them. So, and wine barrels, it has a lot of bilge, and the lees from the grapes or the fruit collects in the bottom of that.
Yeah.
So in wine barrels, you fill clear to the top and you burp them. You don't want any air in them.
Right. Yeah, because the oxidative properties are different with wine versus whiskey, of course, because that totally changes the maturation.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, do you do hogsheads as well, or just 53s?
No, I do not. Now I have plans to do some more of that stuff. I mean, we're in a kind of a growth process right now. I mean, so I was telling you, we're 4,300 barrels per year. Within the next 5 years, we plan to be at about 10,000.
That's amazing.
So we are.
You're definitely going to need a bigger place. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. All right. So that was the first question. Ish.
Ish, right?
Second question from Brian. Can we explore the topic of bourbon being aged in barrels made from other oak, not Alba?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like my buddy in Oregon right now is using a Oregon oak, which is
the
versus
Gariana?
Roba, I believe.
Gariana.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very hard to get, but it actually has the characteristics of French oak. So it's
More
much
expensive?
different. Yeah, it's yes.
Okay.
So and it's so he's building barrels out of that. He's actually working with Sazerac for Sazerac,
Oh, okay.
Buffalo
Huh.
Trace and he's doing small quantities. You know, he doesn't build as many barrels as what we do, but he does a lot of different things, tanks, hogsheads, stuff like that.
Okay.
But he is doing some work with Buffalo Trace for Sazerac with Oregon oak, and it's more like French oak than it is American oak.
Less lactones,
Yes.
less eugenol, right? Less eugenol
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a real good article on that too, and on Rick's website. If you look at Oregon Barrel Works website,
Okay.
it's
awesome.
pretty good research. Rick was actually went to college for forestry,
Oh,
so you know, and then became a cooper. So he's very good, fun guy too. He was one of the reasons, you know. I mean, when I first got into this, nobody would talk to me about starting a cooperage. It's almost like it's top secret, you know. And there are some things that are proprietary. But
Sure.
Rick agreed to let me come out, and he did say, you know, since you're clear on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast, he let me come out. But we became very good friends since then, and we kind of collaborate together on some products. You know, like you were saying, you know, different product kinds of wood. Using cherry wood for heads, barrel heads. We call them red heads. Can create some good flavors. Yeah, you know, you got to be careful. You know, I mean, wood is porous, so there's not many woods out there that will hold liquid.
Now, do you do any vertical storage barrels?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you make them different? I mean, obviously the obvious difference where the bung goes, but are they constructed differently? It is the only difference. Okay,
that's the only difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else you got, Liz?
Got another question?
I was just going to ask about different wood types. So we're on this kind of topic. I know there are some other questions, and we'll get to them. Thank you so much for inquiring. But I wanted to ask you about, outside of white oak, red oak, mahogany. Have you experimented past?
I've done a little bit of experimenting. You know, mahogany, no. Red oak, no. It's just way too porous. It leaks like a sieve. You can do some maple that you can get away with. I actually built some barrels out of coconut wood, to be quite honest, and it was pretty cool stuff. But it leaks like a sieve. We actually had to. The gentleman hired me to build these barrels for rum.
Okay.
And for rum, and it was coconut wood, you know, and
what type of coconuts?
Very, very porous. So we actually had to use a sealer on the outside to keep it. And when you char it, it stinks. It smells bad. So I'm not sure how that turned out, but the barrels were beautiful. They actually were gorgeous. Yeah, they were beautiful.
What type of coconuts?
What the heck was that? Heck, I can't remember right now. And it was from South America. So I can't remember what that stuff was called. It's been quite a while ago, but we built some barrels out of it, and they look beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful, but damn, they leaked like a sieve.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. So yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of experimenting with a lot of different kinds of wood and do know there are a few different kinds that you can use, but ultimately, white oak is the best for producing
Okay.
barrels.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Coconut. There's actually been so not on the barrel side, but from a charcoal perspective, there are
Right.
a fair amount of charcoals made out of coconut.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, when you say charcoal, you're talking about like for filtering or for
For
barbecuing? Filtering. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did char them. I mean, so I haven't heard back. I'm still waiting to kind of hear what, comes out of them things, but we'll see.
Okay, awesome. Other questions. So I'm gonna just keep going forward. But I did want to say that Scott chimed back. It's for science, and we need to talk.
Okay.
I don't know if it's for me or you, so we don't know. So
Okay.
Wait,
but
that
yeah,
was Scott Spolverino?
yeah. So
No,
either way,
that's probably to me.
okay,
Yeah, we're kind of working on a project.
okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a lot of science behind what we do.
Yeah.
100%.
There's science, and there's also research, and we're working with Cornell right now and
awesome.
we've been working for flavor profiling.
Perfect.
So they do it in the wine industry, but I don't think it's ever been done in the whiskey industry or the spirit side of things, I guess. So with our charring processes, we char to specific temperatures. We don't char barrels by time because every barrel is different depending on the density of the wood and the moisture content and density of the wood. So we char barrels to exact temperatures, not time. So let me see, I was losing my train of thought there. What was the question was again here? I'm sorry.
That's all right. There's been a lot of this is probably we've had the most questions here in this than we've had in quite a few months, honestly.
Oh,
Yeah, they kind of fell off there for a while.
No, I remember where I was going with that. Anyhow,
Scott said I did my thesis on oak alternative wood maturation with basis in historical precedents. So he is super fired up about this.
Cool. That's very good. Yeah. So we've sent samples to Cornell.
Yeah.
At different char levels with our wood. So what they will produce is spider graphs with the flavor profiles of what is the compounds that are in that wood or that we're going to pull out of that wood at these certain char levels. So certain char levels, I'll be able to pretty much flavor profile barrels. Like, so for example, if you just want, like I said, a lot of smoke, vanillin, it's going to be higher levels, but at certain temperatures, yeah, exactly. So that research is still being done. So you'll have to have me back, and we'll have to do an update when I get the actual information. But
I actually had a conversation with someone at Cornell last Wednesday, about another research project. So we should all get together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we had a couple more questions. Okay. Another question from Scott.
Scott's on it, isn't he?
This is right up his alley.
Scott's on it.
Okay, maybe this is a question for me. Does the difference in early versus late wood cause differentials in density, which contributes to evaporative losses?
Oh.
I actually am not 100% on that answer. If it's the grain, but more based on temperature would be my firsthand experience. But I don't know, Joe, if you have another experience?
No, other than like I said before, it's just the way it grows in that climate. It grows very slow, so it's naturally going to be more dense and
Yeah.
a little bit tighter. I
A
wouldn't be
combo
able to.
between high-low season temperature, right?
Yeah,
I got to believe the temperature of we're talking about the temperature of the warehouse and where you're
Yeah,
aging. That's
yeah.
got to be the major factor,
big
I would
yeah,
think. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
would
would
just
think so.
make an observation that I am drinking more than I usually do. This stuff is really good.
Very good.
I'm like on my fourth pour already. This is not like me. So
On your fourth pour already.
yeah, this is good. This is drinking really well. It's that Glen Grant 12-year-old.
Well, you guys are hitting me hard with all these questions. I haven't even had a chance to turn around and pour myself one yet.
Get yourself some.
Yeah.
Anything else?
This is I got some good product in here. Working with a lot of good customers. I'm excited.
Oh, okay. So I think probably the last question, and maybe we'll end on this.
Yeah.
Can one come out and visit your shop and talk wood?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually kind of encourage that.
Nice.
Especially with our distillers. I love to have them come here to actually see what we do. I mean,
well, you mentioned to
I'm
me
not
before the
hiding
show
that you can
you
walk
took your
through
guys
here.
out to the distilleries.
Yeah, and we do, and that's what I've been training, and working with our guys here, our crew. We'll set a day aside, every couple months and go visit one of the distilleries that we work with, to give, them a better understanding of why we do what we do and learn about them and their needs. So, depending on product, I like to taste what they're doing. Usually I like to taste their white whiskey. It gives me a better idea of
100%,
where they're going with their product. And, for example, Iron Smoke, it's just what it sounds like. It's a smoky, I char their barrels slightly different than I char some of my other customers, knowing what products they use and what profiles they're looking for. I can kind of dial those in with my charring process, and customize, flavor profiles of what they're looking for. So, and then it helps our people understand that better when they're down here building these barrels every day. I got a great crew right now. All of them are fantastic. I teach it, and there's a lot of different steps involved in the processing a barrel, and I teach it step by step, and I make them learn each step for a good while before they move to the next. It can take a good couple years to really get through my program, and by rights, 5 years to become a cooper, a full-blown cooper. So
Yeah.
But people I've got in here right now are doing great. They understand it, and taking them to visit the distilleries has actually been a big help to us. It gets them excited, getting to taste and see, their barrels in the racks. You get an Iron Smoke, there's thousands of them. They've been with us right from the beginning. It's all they, I've got several customers that are strictly 80K. So then they're
That's
all
pretty
making
cool.
very good product. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this
That
is
it
pretty
there?
cool.
Okay.
I thought I'd be a little more nervous than what I was, but
No, we couldn't shut you up. It was great.
I know my craft.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to get you on.
Absolutely.
Really psyched to finally have a Cooper on.
We were, and it sounds like Scott and maybe others want to come visit you, which is great.
Yeah, just give us a call or email us at AdirondackBarrelCooperage.com, and Kelly or Crystal will talk to you and set you up, or I might be the one. Usually Kelly does that stuff. and we could probably set something up.
And where exactly are you guys located again?
We're about 20 miles north of Utica, New York. So on Route 12, we're right gateway of the Adirondacks. So
I
Route 12 in
literally in the
Remsen, New York.
Adirondacks all the time, so I will have to swing by on my next
You
journey.
should.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to see you here.
Okay.
I'd give you the royal tour.
Okay.
I'll give you the royal tour that we got here. It's not a very big place. I'm sure you've been in larger cooperages, but
no, I'm clamoring at the opportunity. Honestly,
good, very good.
Super. Lou, did you have anything else?
I didn't. I'm pretty much completely satisfied at this point.
I think that was probably the easiest interview you've ever done, isn't it, Liz? Liz, you were great. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, again, before we leave, I just want to tee up our next exciting ASOC. So we have a little change of pace, right, Lou?
Pretty much.
Pretty
like 180. Much. Yeah.
Maria Pierman, she's a finance person, and she just launched her new book, Distillery Finance. And we're going to talk with her about finance on the 21st.
How do you get started? How do you stay afloat?
Yeah, right. That's the big one these days. How do you keep it going?
I mean, ROIs, it's actually a really important topic. So please come back and check us out on the 21st. It happens to be my boyfriend's birthday. So
awesome. Joe,
back.
Thanks very much.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Nice.
We'll see you.
Meeting you. Thanks.
Take care.